Alright, so the Spiral Abyss, we know, gives some of the best rewards in Genshin Impact. If you get all the stars, you can get 300 Primo Gems per floor and a whole bunch of money. But on top of that, each floor is also going to give you experience. You can get some artifacts of varying levels, and once you start getting higher, you can get gold artifacts. You can get 5-star artifacts. Now, you would think that you'd be able to use food buffs to do more damage in the only content that's actually hard. But no, MiHoYo says, no food buffs. So if you try to use food items in the game, you can't. You can't actually use food items in here. But you can't even buff up before you go in. There's no way to get buffs in here. Or is there? Because the Tashman, actually my Twitch chat, discovered something while I was playing the brand new event. You can actually get a buff from the new Elemental Crucible event and take it into the Spiral Abyss. And you actually get a damage buff. And on top of this, because I feel like I need to explain this, if you're a low-level character, these first few floors, you're like gonna double your damage. Now, if you're pushing into the later floors, it's not going to be a make or break damage boost. It's like 100 attack, 120, 150. It actually depends on your attack stat, I believe, because people were testing it in my chat at different levels and giving me the numbers. And, you know, the lowest buff that I saw was like 80 damage, and I think that is based on how much attack percentage you get. And then the highest was like 150 for me on my Kaching character. Now, in the lower level rooms, if you're kind of a low level account, AR 20, 25, you're just getting to the Spiral Abyss, this damage buff might not only help you beat the rooms, but you might be able to get some 3 stars, right? And that's awesome. And you're going to be able to get some rewards, and maybe that's a big power spike. If you're a free-to-play player, getting 3 stars, getting 100 Primo Gems, that's a nice little payday, right? And if this damage buff helps you do some of these early rooms, awesome. But when you start looking at some of the harder rooms, if you start looking at the stuff where there's Fatui players, you know, if you can kill these bosses before they put up their overshields, right? They've got different elemental shields. If you can kill them before they do that, it makes it way easier. And so some of these harder rooms where you just needed a little bit more damage, this can help. And then there's the big boobas, right? If you get into these rooms, you have to remember, these rooms reset. You can see here, I'm 8 out of 9 here. I need 1 little star to get another 50 Primo Gems. And this buff could be enough. It could be enough to help. And if you can finish a chamber, when you start getting into the Spiral Abyss, the Abyss Chamber is 9, 10, 11. Look at this. We're looking at multiple purple artifacts, lots of experience, gold artifacts. If I can finish floor 10 because of this buff, and then it resets in, 1 day, 10 hours. I gotta go like this. 1 day and 10 hours. It's resetting? Bro, that's incredible. So how do you do it? It's very simple. It's very easy. Let's get started. So to start, my Kaching's base damage or attack damage was 1,271. When I'm doing my basic attacks, they're doing about 745 damage. I don't know why, sometimes they're lower. Sometimes they crit, obviously. But 745 is, I'm gonna say, our base damage. Now, what you're gonna do is just go play a game of the Elemental Crucible. This is the new co-op event, and so this is a limited time glitch that you can do, but once you complete this event, you're actually going to get an attack buff on your health bar. Now, that's the same location when you get a buff when you eat a food item, above your health bar. But typically, these buffs go away when you enter the Spiral Abyss. But for whatever reason, I don't know if it's because they forgot to code this out or what, but the buff isn't going away. You can take the buff into the Spiral Abyss and you get like 100, 150 more attack damage. And that impacts your spells, it impacts your basic attacks, and I want to show you that now. So the event is completed and you can see the up arrows and the buff bar there. But look at my attack value. It's now almost 1,400. That's like almost 130 more damage. Now my basic attacks are 819 and I'm critting over 1,000. I understand this doesn't sound that big, but because you're getting base attack, and that's going to scale off of your other stats like crit, and when you're using your abilities, it's actually a bigger buff than you might think. And if you're using debuffs and things on enemies, you're gonna hit even harder. but because this impacts your spell damage, there's some characters in the game that can use this and absolutely carry your team. Venti is one of the best characters in the Spiral Abyss, and if you can give him more damage, then that's great. You can see I'm doing 499, we're doing 851 on many of these swirl effects. And I mean, I'm trucking these enemies, we killed a bunch, we've got 6 opponents defeated and a couple of weak ones. However, after doing the activity and getting the buff, I'm now doing 549 and 949, 936. So we're getting like another 100 damage per tick here, and you can see how many ticks are going off. Now in this case, it could be placement, it could be whatever, but we killed 7 opponents, we've got 2 weak as well, and obviously, you know, placement isn't perfect, is what it is, but if you're getting that damage and you can spam the ability this much, this is gonna save you not just a couple of seconds, this is gonna save you minutes off of your times. And that's why I think that this is so damn important. And guess what? You can actually get it on multiple characters. Sometimes, if there's not enough players, you get 2 characters. And the other way you can get 2 characters if you're actually doing co-op with another player, you know, you've invited them and you're doing 2-man co-op, you can swap between characters. I believe that the majority of the time it does force other players into the lobby, but if you can complete it with 2 characters assigned to you, then they would both get the buff. And then you have double the buffs, you could take them into different rooms for the Spiral Abyss, you could stack them on one team, whatever, but this has some potential as well. So if you're going to be doing this, my recommendation is use a character that can hit a lot of targets at the same time. You know, someone like Diluc, who's got a big greatsword, his ultimate is kind of area of effect. Someone like Venti that can swirl up and attack multiple enemies and hit them with the spell over and over again, or your main DPS character. Again, this isn't like a crazy DPS boost in the later levels, but it is enough to shave off some time. When I would recommend doing this, and I think that this is going to be a game changer for a lot of people, is in the lower levels of the Spiral Abyss and for free-to-play players. So you might be just a few seconds off of getting the 3 stars you need in a room, right? You might be just off that timer, you almost have the damage. This could be enough, but there's another thing that's important with that, is different rooms have different buffs. And so if you've got someone like Venti, if you're on floor 3, increased swirl reaction damage by 300% and area of effect by 100%, right? And so let's say, hypothetically, you were struggling with room 2 and you couldn't get enough stars. And you can now get enough stars, even though you're going on to a higher floor. This actually might be an easier floor for you depending on your characters. And this happens all the time. Electro damage dealt by all party members increased by 70%, or 75%. Electro charge damage increased by 150%. So if you've got a bunch of electric and water characters, maybe these floors are an absolute chore for you. They're hard, but maybe it's enough to beat it, and then you get a full nother floor that might be easy. Yes, the enemies are going to start scaling up, right? If you go from level 50 enemies to, you know, from 45, maybe that is too much for you. But in most cases, if you're getting a big damage buff, it's enough to make up for it. And I've done some of these levels very under-leveled. I'm still AR 39 right now, and I've pushed in, I actually got these floors done today, the room 9, because I was getting destroyed. I was getting absolutely destroyed in these rooms. I just didn't have enough damage to finish it. These Fatui guys were awful. But now, I'm killing everything way faster, my Venti is trucking everything, and I was able to push, and I was able to get these floors done. I couldn't get the full 3-star here, but that's still like literally a brand new tier 5 reward or a 5-star artifact. Now, can I push into floor 10? I don't know, but do this. Just do it, okay? Just do it. That's all I'm gonna say.